Welcome to Kids in the Kitchen. This is episode 5, and today our episode is called Pantry Panic, and we'll tell you a little bit more about why we're titling it that today. It's based on a 4-H project, and if you remember, if you've been joining us for the past 5 weeks, we talked about the very first week that Julia and Nathan are 4-H members. So I'll introduce myself. I forget that sometimes not all of you have been watching as we've been doing all these episodes. I'm Emily Marrison from OSU Extension here in Coshocton County, serve as the Family and Consumer Sciences Educator. This is my daughter Julia. Nathan is back behind the camera at this point, and he'll be joining us in a little bit. But we talked a little bit about 4-H a few weeks ago, and that is a youth development program here in Ohio, and it's done through OSU Extension for kids that are anywhere from kindergarten age all the way through seniors and even freshmen in college. So it's a wide variety of ages. Oh, Julia, do you want to go put your apron on? Forgot to do that. It's been a bit of kitchen chaos here as we've been preparing because one of the things that I want to share first of all is that we've had some excitement in our house. Part of our 4-H world is that Nathan takes goats. So we had our first kids born here on our little farm yesterday afternoon. This is Daisy, and she had little kids. Lester is the one that's all red, and Luna is what we've named the other one. So Nathan has 3 other does that are due soon here in another week or so, and hopefully we'll have some more babies then running around. And also, you can't really tell in that picture, but Nathan also takes woodworking for 4-H, and he built the pens with his grandpa. So it's kind of cool that you can incorporate so many life skills that you learn through 4-H, and one of those life skills is our food and nutrition area. So one of the projects that you can take through 4-H is called Pantry Panic, and this was designed and organized. The book was written by someone from Mid-Ohio Food Bank, and focuses a little bit on folks who are food insecure and would need to go to a food pantry in order to get food. I know for some people, they're running into that kind of situation for the first time ever because of COVID-19 and because of being out of work maybe for the first time. So this is something that's very real for some people. Others of you that are watching are still able to work, and so you may still have a steady income, but we're still adjusting to the fact that we can't just run to the store as often maybe as we're used to. I know for us, we live about 3 miles from the nearest grocery store, even though we kind of feel like we're in the country. But it's been very easy over time just to run and get something. And we've been learning a lot in the last month that we just can't do that. So we have to plan a lot better. And that's one of the things that we're going to talk about today with Pantry Panic and this really cool 4-H project is some ways just to be really flexible and creative with your recipes. So I'll show just briefly. I'll pull it up. So there are some really cool 4-H projects that our folks at State 4-H have said are great. They're perfect stay-at-home projects. So there's a whole bunch that are related to sewing. There's a genealogy project, things related to art, food and nutrition projects, laundry project, being outdoors, all kinds of things. And one of the, like I said, one of the projects is called Pantry Panic. So we thought one thing that we would do is just look at what do we have on hand here at our house, and how can we plan a little better so that we're not just using these recipes that call for very specific ingredients, but being more creative with what we've got around. So, Julia, what are we going to be making with you today?
We're going to be making basic stir fry.
Basic stir fry, and you can get all of our recipes by going to our website, which is coshocton.osu.edu. Yeah, Julia's getting that memorized as we go along as well. So Julia's going to be walking us through that. But before we get to Julia's project, Nathan, I think you're going to do yours first. Is that right? And Nathan, what are you going to be making today?
Making the Pantry Panic casserole.
All right, so come on around here. Oh, and he's saying, Mom, we gotta wash our hands. Yes, why do I keep forgetting that? We always have to wash our hands. So Nathan's got a cool song again to play. So let's go ahead and do that.
Wash baby, 1, 2, 3, 4. Wash baby, 1, 2, 3. Wash baby, 1, 2.
One thing that I found is that in all the toilet paper shortages and Lysol wipes, Clorox wipe shortages, hand soap is hard to find as well. So as you plan out your grocery trips, make sure that you're putting those items on there as well. And if you find them, you're not hoarding them, but grabbing what you need for your family for about 2 weeks. That's what we're going to talk about, is kind of planning for 2 weeks at a time. So we're going to wash our hands around 20 seconds as you're scrubbing them. And we want to do that all the time, not just right now in this phase of COVID-19, but for food safety, we should always be washing your hands before you eat.
All you gotta do is do the scrub, and the dub. Just wash your hands. Wash baby, 1, 2, 3, 4. Wash baby, 1, 2, 3. Wash baby, 1, 2. Wash baby, 1. It's so easy to do the little things too. Protect me and you, now let's go through. When to wash hands, like before you eat food. Touch car wash or not, before you clean a room. Touch a toilet, pick up after a pet. When you
We have really enjoyed finding all these parody songs out there about washing your hands. All right, so Nathan, come on in. And Julia is going to keep chopping her vegetables because this takes a little bit of time. So she's going to be chopping away as Nathan is explaining what to do for our casserole. So I'll hand this to you. You want to kind of walk us through?
Okay, so for this casserole, there are 6 different ingredients.
Yeah, like categories of ingredients,
like
right?
categories. So we have our protein foods, and in our casserole, we're going to be using ham.
And why are we going to use ham for ours?
Because it's left over from Easter.
Right, we made a big ham on Easter, which had been our plan all along, and even though it was just the 4 of us, we still made a ham. Because even when you make a big piece of meat like that, you can always freeze it, and you can use it for leftovers and lots of things.
Yep. Okay, so our sauce, we're going to be using a basic white sauce, which we'll make here in a couple minutes. And vegetables, we're using broccoli and peppers. Our starch or grain is going to be rice. Our seasoning is just going to be salt and pepper. And our topping is going to be some breadcrumbs.
Very good. So I'll just hold this up a little bit so that you can see. But again, you can go to our website, coshocton.osu.edu, in order to find this. But this is a great, just like skeleton of a recipe because it's got those basic components, and you can just look and see what's on hand. One thing that we joked a little bit about is like if you have a few things on hand and you can't decide which things to put in the casserole, you could get like a little spinner out of a board game and maybe put some things on that. I have a friend who was saying that as a kid, he and his sister, like if they couldn't decide which vegetable to have, or bean, if it was in a can, they'd get out a Lazy Susan and put that on there and spin it around, and whatever landed in front of them, that's what they would have. So you can have some fun on how you plan these ingredients, or it's just whatever you've got at that point. So, hey Nathan, do you want to start with the white sauce?
Sure.
Okay, I will grab the camera then.
How much peppers does he need, Mom?
Probably about a half cup for his peppers.
What setting are we going to put it on?
So make sure that you have, instead of the double side, some of you may have a stove that's kind of like this on your top. In our case, we've got like a double burner so that on one side, you turn it, it'll do a single burner, or if you turn on the other side, then it will heat up both of your burners. So since we have a smaller, it's going to do the single burner. Okay, and you'll want to be about medium heat, so you're perfect with that. Okay, and then do you have your directions?
Okay, so Okay, so these are the ingredients for the basic white sauce. And, or this is the recipe.
Okay, go ahead and talk us through it, Nathan.
So, we're using 2 tablespoons of butter, 2 tablespoons of flour, and 1 cup of milk. So, first we're just going to put the butter right in there, like that. Slide it around, get it all, melts it all over the pan. It's pretty tricky.
Okay, Nathan did some good problem solving there. And a lot of times if you do have a bigger chunk of butter, it can help to cut it up into smaller. We've been doing a lot of math together, Nathan and I have, and if you think about it, you're increasing the surface area, right? If you cut it up into more pieces, so more surface for the heat to come into contact with, and that's what allows you to heat it up a little bit quicker. All right, so the next thing you're gonna do is add in
The flour.
Okay, now let's make sure you really get your butter all the way. So what you can do is just take your whisk, go ahead and stir that a little bit. I think knowing how to make a basic white sauce is a fantastic skill for our kind of intermediate kids to have. There's just so much. It's a base for so many additional things that you can do. You could do soup bases from this. You can make like an Alfredo sauce kind of out of this to add to pasta. And there's just so many things. Having the know-how to do a basic white sauce is it's just kind of like a staple thing to know as you're learning to cook. Make sure that I'll get it tilted up here so you can see what it's looking like. So you're just going to incorporate that in there.
Yep, make sure it's all well combined together.
And it's equal parts. So you can, use your ratios and make a bigger batch of this. All right, that looks great, Nathan. Okay, so as you're adding the milk, make sure you gradually incorporate that. And one of the other things that we talked about in this recipe is that, there's several things that you can choose from. And one of those is that you could use a can of soup. Now, Nathan, we had a little conversation about that. And what was do you remember what your question was to me or your reaction about the can of soup? You asked me about like chicken noodle, right? And what did I tell you? Do you remember? So basically, when it's saying to add a can of condensed soup, what does condensed soup mean? It means that it doesn't have all the liquid added to it, right? So liquid needs to be added. So this is more of those like cream-based kinds of soups. So it could be cream of chicken, cream of celery, cream of mushroom, cream of whatever, basically.
Add some salt and pepper.
Okay, now in this case, in order for it to start to thicken up, you may need to turn the heat up just a little bit. You're going to be constantly stirring it, and that's just going to depend on your range, whatever your stovetop is. So we will let Nathan keep making his white sauce. Julia, meantime, is over here with a lot of veggies.
And a mess.
A mess? Are you making a mess over there?
Yes, I have to wash my hands.
All right, so she's been chopping up our broccoli and peppers. And we have some chicken that is left over from dinner last night. So we've tried to be really cognizant of how we're planning out our meals. And I will definitely admit that sometimes it's easier to plan than others. Are you all done with your chopping, Jules?
Yeah. Do I have to chop the chicken?
So I can chop up the chicken if you want me to do that, or you can.
I need you to show me how to.
All right, maybe I'll start it and then you can finish it. Should we do that? All right, so we're gonna let Nathan finish that up. I'm gonna bring the camera around so that I can be in front of it. So we'll...
So I put this back in the bag.
I better adjust it up a little bit more. It might cut my head off. Great. So she's been measuring these things out because in our Pantry Panic stir fry recipe, it's very similar to the way our casserole is. We've got these different categories that you can choose your ingredients from. And Julia, do you want to walk us through and talk through what you chose from each of the categories?
Okay. So, from the cooking oil for 2 tablespoons, you can do canola oil, corn oil, olive oil, but the olive oil is light, refined, not extra vinegar.
Virgin, right?
Virgin.
Here, I'll show you what I mean by that. We've got some down here. And for this one, it just says pure olive oil, right?
Yeah.
This one says extra virgin olive oil. So part of this is because, or the reason for it is because of the smoke point on it. And we're going to be heating this oil up. So we don't want the oil to get all smoky and yucky, right? And give an off flavor. So we're not going to use this. Instead, we're going to use one of these oils that's on the list because of the smoke point.
So there's also peanut oil and vegetable oil. And today we're going to use vegetable oil. And for vegetables, 3 to 4 cups chopped vegetables. You can do broccoli, cabbage, carrots, cauliflower, onions, peppers, spinach or other greens, and tomatoes. Today we are going to do broccoli, carrots, and peppers. Protein foods, which is the meat, 1 pound sliced, beef, canned beans, chicken, eggs, fish, pork. Today we're doing chicken. Sauce. 1/3 cup sauce plus 1/3 cup water. So,
What kind of sauce did you choose?
I chose teriyaki.
Teriyaki, yeah. What are some other choices that you could have done?
You could have done French salad dressing, honey mustard salad dressing, soy sauce, sweet and sour salad dressing, or teriyaki sauce. And then seasoning, garlic, pepper, salt.
Very good. Okay. So what's the first thing that we need to do for yours, Jules?
First thing is, before you begin, cut all vegetables and meats into pieces that are approximately the same size.
And why would we want to do that? Why do you think it's important that they're the same size?
So they cook it. So they cook at the same. So they can cook at the same temperature.
Yeah, so they cook at the same rate and they would cook at the same temperature and get heated through the same, right? Okay, so there's a few. Do you want to finish the rest? Or do you want me to keep cooking?
Can you?
Or keep cutting? Yes,
Yeah.
I can do that.
Nathan, I'll put your peppers right there.
Thank you. All right, so what do you need to do next, Nathan, for the casserole?
So I need to
So if you want to grab a...
When do I add the cheese to the...
Oh, good question. Okay, do you want to bring the sauce over and just show everybody what it looks like? So Nathan was stirring the sauce, letting it bubble, simmer a little bit, but constantly stirring that so that it wasn't going to stick. And now it's thickened up really nicely. So it's a great basic white sauce. I mean, just what the name says. So he's going to add some cheese to that to turn it into a cheese sauce. Okay, thank you. So he'll add that cheese in. Julia's doing a little bit of cleanup since we're kind of running out of room with all these ingredients here today. And we have chosen, I will say, the recipe calls for a 9 by 13 casserole. And really, you know, a casserole is where you just put a bunch of things together, right? And this could be a fun way just to experiment with some different flavors of things that you have on hand. But there are typically 2 different sizes of casserole dishes or casserole pans. The 9 by 13 is very popular. And then there's the 11 by 7, which is also a handy size to have when you want to make something that's not quite as big. So that's what we're going to use for our casserole, because we figured if we made a great big casserole plus all this stir fry, that was probably going to be a whole lot of food for us to eat. And though we are very good at our house about eating vegetables or eating leftovers and vegetables, and that's one thing too, when we talk about utilizing our pantry well, utilize your leftovers well. I know that there's some people who just don't like leftovers. It's not their favorite thing. Well, we're kind of in a time right now where we're doing a lot of things that aren't our favorite thing, right? So eating our leftovers should definitely be something that we're doing. And really you can plan for leftovers. Like in our case, when we made our ham, we were planning for leftovers. There's no way we were planning on eating our giant ham all together as a family. In that one setting. So we froze part of it, we put it, you know, in bags and put that in the freezer, and then we kept some out so that we'll be able to cook for the rest of the week. So it's like planned overs instead of leftovers, because they don't just happen to be leftover, you're actually planning to have something left over. I don't think that you'll need your knife anymore, Jules.
We need our cutting board again?
I think you have everything cut up at this point. Do you feel like you got it all?
I still need the cup, John.
The measuring cup?
Yeah.
I think you'll be alright.
It is good.
I think we can. Yes, that looks good. Okay, so I'm gonna move some things out of the way just so they can see kind of. So Nathan right now is cutting up his ham. Now, I would cut it, then once you've got those pieces, cut it again so that it's more like a bite-sized piece. So I cut those into like 4s, okay? So that it's like little bite-sized pieces. Because that's an important thing about a casserole, is that you don't want a lot in there that you're gonna have to cut up later, right? You just expect that as you're eating it that everything's gonna be bite-sized.
Right.
And really similar with stir fry too, right? So I'm gonna put this over here for now. That's gonna be our topping. And Julia, what is the first thing we need to do for our stir fry?
So first we need, in a large skillet, we need to heat 2 to 3 minutes or until, wrong one.
What do
2
we
to
have to add
3
in?
tablespoons of oil on medium-high heat.
Right, so let's do our oil first.
Be sure that
And
the
we've got-
oil covers the bottom of the skillet.
All right, so our skillet has been heating up, and if you kind of put your hand not too close, but just you can feel that it's hot, right? In fact, it is pretty hot. I'm going to turn it down just a little bit, okay? And I'm going to add in. I'll add the first one. Just see how it goes. So we are using an electric skillet, and I can see it's already starting to pop. So I've got my lid here, just in case that was going to happen. So I'm going to turn it down a little bit so it's not quite so hot. But you definitely want to have some heat when it's a quick heat as you're stir frying things. Okay, so I'm gonna add, and I'll go ahead and do this for you, Jules. If you do the lid, that is a great purchase. getting hot. Okay, and then what's the first thing that you're gonna add next?
Add meat and protein and cook 2 to 3 minutes or until, what's that say?
Desired doneness.
Stirring constantly. Remove from skillet and put in a bowl.
Okay, so in our case, our meat that we have is already cooked, fully cooked, and so we can actually incorporate that at the end. If you were going to be doing this on your own and you had fresh meat, you could cook that. It says 2 to 3 minutes. You might need, it depends on how hot it is, right? You might need a little more time, but how would we know whether it's done or not? You know what we would need to use?
Needing to use the thermometer.
Yeah, we need to use our food thermometer to make sure that, especially if we're doing poultry or beef like that, that it would be done.
So is the ham the first layer?
Yes, so you can go ahead and do your spray, right?
Yes.
You're gonna grease your pan. So Nathan's got some cooking spray here, and then he's just gonna start layering our casserole dish. And that's just the cool thing. It doesn't even really have to be mixed up. You can layer these things in there. It makes it go super fast. All right, so Jules, I think the next thing what we should do is to put our vegetables in. All right, so go ahead and put those in there now. There you go. And in our case, we are using an electric skillet here, but you could certainly do this on your cooktop. We just thought this would be a little more convenient for us to use today, and it's something that Julia hasn't used before, so this is her first experience with this recipe to be able to use it. Okay, so that is behaving a lot better right now, and you can hear it all sizzly, so you can keep kind of stirring that around. That's called stir fry, right? And I will show everybody what it looks like.
Smells awesome.
That is looking really good. And Nathan is still working on his layers here and getting everything into the casserole. And this time has gone really fast today. We are almost at the end of our time, but there's a couple more things that I did want to share. So I mentioned that I'd talk about a few tips on how to make things stretch further, and I hope that you picked up some of those as we've been going along. Utilizing your leftovers, planning to have certain leftovers that you can incorporate in other things. I think probably Monday, I sat down and just made a list of 2 weeks worth of meals that I wanted to have. Sometimes I do a better job of this than others. But what kind of things do we want to have this week? And then what do we have already here? So looking around at what we have. You could also start with the what do we have here and what do we know that we can make from it?
What stuff goes on next?
Yes. Okay, put that on. So Nathan's going to keep layering here. And then once you have your list, there's a lot of different ways that you can approach it. One of my favorite things to do is to put produce at the top, and then I put aisles, I put dairy, and then frozen and meat, and then I have my other section at the bottom. And I hit the aisles first. That's the first thing that I do. I go to the inside, get those canned items, the box items, the things that aren't going to need refrigeration. And hopefully you don't need a whole lot of those. We're going to steer clear of the Twinkies, except maybe a few occasionally, right? But we're mainly going to be looking for the cans of beans and the rice and the things like that, those kinds of staples. I posted on our Facebook page today. This is from a colleague in North Carolina who works for their cooperative extension there, and it's keeping a well-stocked pantry. This is one of the best lists that I've seen of items that you should have on hand, and just to be able to create like this some great recipes that are balanced, that have protein in them, that have vegetables in them, that have a wide variety of things and ingredients in them. So I'd encourage you to look at that Facebook page post that we put on earlier today. But making sure that you've got a list when you go to the store, and then you stick to that list, right? So you do the aisles and then start going around the outside, all the refrigerated things. From a food safety standpoint, I find that works really well for me. And it keeps me better focused and helps me find things a lot easier that way too. So that's the main thing that we've got today. We're going to keep working here with our stir fry. Julia, those veggies look fantastic. Then we're just going to be able to add in our chicken. So we can return, because it says return meat to the skillet. So we're going to put our chicken in there now and start heating it up since it's already cooked. Again, this is just to heat it through. And then the next thing Julia's going to do is to add her sauce. And like she said, she chose teriyaki, so we'll get that teriyaki sauce on there, and then our stir fry will be good to go. Then we're going to pop in, and then your other seasonings, right? You're going to add in your garlic and your salt and pepper. Then Nathan will stick this into our oven and bake our casserole, and we'll take some pictures of that and post it on our Facebook page to let you see. But I think this is what we've got for our show today. Thanks so much for joining us. I hope that this has given you some inspiration on being creative with the ingredients that you have. Remember, you don't just have to have a recipe and stick to every single ingredient that's there. There's some fun that can happen when you're creative and mix some different things and combinations together. So, hope you have a fantastic day, and we will see you next week, where we're going to be making some recipes from Celebrate Your Plate. And we'll talk more about the opportunities that are there from Celebrate Your Plate with some kid-approved recipes that we know you're going to like. Thanks. Have a great day.